Good evening to everybody. Welcome to this seminar series in the second semester. I know my suggestion may not be what you're used to, right? Although I'll try to slow. Let's start the discussion. Today we'll be looking at fragilities and shocks in Southern Africa. Fragilities and shocks are not issues that are new to economics or to studies. They are realities that occur that affects societies generally. No societies have a stable. Economics in every side, any economics usually experiences this period of instability and then try to balance, like we have now since the COVID-19 pandemic. There has been this imbalance, and then we are trying to stabilize the economy. The effort to stabilize is also impeded by other factors. Like now we have the Ukraine-Russia war, we have inflation that's spread with the COVID-19 supply chain crisis and all that. These are realities that are placed itself in every economy. Why is Southern Africa different? Why is Sub-Saharan Africa different? Because these are developing economies. There are no patterns of, there are no settlement patterns. There are no strong settlement systems. We would be looking at Southern African countries. Initially, Southern African countries were just a few, but recently we've had more countries joining the SADC, that's the Southern African Democratic Community, and that has made, or rather, that has broadened the scope of the Southern African region, or sub-region if you wish. The region used to be just 5-6 countries: South Africa, Lesotho, Botswana, Angola, later, Mozambique, and just these few of them, let's get them up. Next slide. Okay, I can use this slide. Okay, sorry. Before I look at the map, let's look at the issues we discussed. We're looking at understanding fragilities and shocks itself, and then we look at area study of Southern Africa. Then we look at historical shocks in the sub-region. We'll just pick a few countries because the countries are much, so we may not be able to pick all the countries. We just pick a few of them. Then when we look at after we finish looking at historical shocks in the sub-region, we'll look at conflicts in the sub-region, recent conflicts and how they shape these communities and families or businesses as well. Then we look at the COVID-19 households in Southern Africa. Then we look at the Ukraine war and inflation in Southern Africa. Then we look at lastly, most important, community impacts of climate change in Southern Africa. Then we conclude with that. So let's do it. Yeah.
We need to speak a little slowly.
Slowly. Oh, sorry.
English is it's not our mother.
I understand.
So
I need to
we won't
understand me. Thank you very much. I'll try to do that. Okay, now when we look at this is the current situation of the Southern African region. It has incorporated very recently the Democratic Republic of Congo. It used to be within the East, but now it's been incorporated into the Southern African region. It has incorporated Tanzania, which used to be, of course, part of the Swahilian countries in the East. Now it has incorporated Tanzania, and then Zambia has always been there. Zimbabwe has always been there. Mozambique has always been there. Botswana, Namibia, and Angola. These are countries that we are used to here in Portugal because of the historical relations between Portugal, Angola, and Mozambique, then South Africa. I would, for the sake of historical reasons, lay emphasis on historical effects in this region on Angola and Mozambique. Not so that you'll be able to understand better. The other regions may not be very used to them, so I may not touch them so much because it may not sound very familiar in the world. I would look at some of these countries in relation to fragilities and shocks and how they affect households and communities as well as businesses. Most times when we look at fragilities and shocks, attention is focused on the state, right? Everybody looks at the states. When you resense, is it the state that feels fragility more? Who feels fragility more in the society? Who feels shocks more? Good. Families, households, and communities. They are the immediate recipients. They are immediate feelers of the realities of fragilities and shocks in economies. The state is just an agglomeration of all communities, right? In the recent, the state does not feel as much as the communities, the households do. They are the ones who experience shocks. They are the ones who experience fragilities. That's why the attention of this study is focused on households, businesses, and communities. We would look at now, let's first understand what shocks are. There are different definitions of shocks. But one common definition is that it is a sudden or surprising event that changes the pattern of things, or that upsets things. It academically is also considered an external shock, then with deviations from long-term trends, like the 2008 global financial crisis. It was from a long-term event. The long-term impact of on property prices, on commodity prices, and all that had a boomerang effect in 2008 and that stage of the financial crisis. Now you see that it actually gives us an understanding of how external short-term deviations could have impact on long-term realities. And deviations that have substantial negative effects on people's current state of well-being, level of assets, livelihoods, or safety, or their ability to understand shocks. That is as Leslie and Joseph 2014. So, you would want to wonder why shocks, why fragilities, what is the difference? The idea is this: shocks are the drivers of fragilities. When we say an economy is fragile, what makes it fragile? Good. It is those shocks that make it fragile. So when after you say they are drivers of fragility. Now, fragility itself, most like I did mention earlier, most times attention is given to state fragility, state fragility. From definitions, there are various definitions, but one of the common definitions is from the IMS, says that these are a significant institutional and policy implementation effects, a fractional political context, a severe domestic resource constraints, and high vulnerability to shocks. These are part of the characteristics that define state fragility. Meanwhile, fragility in itself, independently, could be understood from the combination of exposure to risk, insufficient coping capacity of the state, system, and or communities to manage, absorb, and mitigate those risks. The OECD in 2016 provides 5 categories and sub-categories that determine shocks. From the OECD's definition, we have 5 important categories. The political categories that talk about states, the security fragility, like we have in most parts of Africa now, where Boko Haram, where different insurgent groups are causing problems. Those are security fragilities. Now, economic fragilities, which is our cardinal point, households, incomes, poverty, inequality, and all that. That's the economic fragility. Then environmental fragility, with sustainability, we have come to realize that there is an important attention to environment. Any industry, any business, anything you do without considering the environment, you are not looking at sustainability. What is sustainability? Sustainability is the ability to pursue production or whatever means for the benefit of today as well as for the benefit of the future generation. You understand? When we see something is sustainable, it can be continued in the future without problems. If I go on building houses everywhere, I am not helping the future generation because in the future there are no space for free ventilation, right? Good. If I go on polluting the rivers in the quest of such minerals or natural resources, I am not making it sustainable, right? Because tomorrow somebody will need to do. You understand? So these are realities that sustainability is set at. The ability to do something sustainably, meaning that if apart from today, we will be sustainable tomorrow. That is the essence of this whole study itself, because we are looking at sustainability in Africa as well. If the current trend of shocks and fragilities affects households today, and we don't consider tomorrow, then Africa is fragile. Africa's future is not sustainable at the moment. So the next aspect is societal fragility. In societal fragility, which is what we are looking at here today, is the ability for us to look at how sustainable our societies are in Southern Africa, for example. What sustainability mechanisms are available? What makes it sustainable for the future? Now, at the moment, we will look at those characteristics that make it unsustainable. You understand? And then with discussions, your personal research might go into some of these realities. Some of these are factors that affect sustainability in communities in Southern Africa or in other parts. We would then look at, discuss political fragility, is the definition of political fragility, and then that of environmental fragility. Let's look at it more in detail. Political fragility is inherent in political processes, events, decisions, political inclusiveness, including of elites and transparency, corruption, society's ability to accommodate change and avoid repression. Environmental fragility is vulnerability to environmental, climatic, and health risks that affect citizens and livelihoods. Economic fragility is vulnerability to risks stemming from weakness in economic foundations and human capital, including macroeconomic shocks, unequal growth, and high unemployment. If we look at it from the economic aspect of discussion, the vulnerability to economic shocks is not just dependent on the macro shocks. Of course, it is the macro shocks that boils down to the micro. Our focus today is on micro. But we are also concerned about that it is the macro also that affects the micro. Now, the unequal growth and high unemployment that we have in most African societies and economies today are the main drivers of economic shocks in the region. Environmental fragility, like the definition explains, looks at the environment, concerns the environment. And today, very importantly, we cannot discuss about the environment in Africa without climate change, because it is driving the continent differently. It is making things worse than it used to be. It is making things uneven in the continent. And that is why we if these factors that affect the citizens and livelihoods are important to fragility studies. There are categories. Now, these are categories of fragility and restoration, environment, economic, political security, and society fragility have been categorized into sub components. The OECD succeeded in giving different IMF succeeded in giving different categories. In the categories and subcategories, in the environmental fragility area, it looks at household and community state resilience, under which it has subcategories like socioeconomic fragility, food security, environmental health, uprooted people, prevalence of infectious disease. And then on natural disasters, which are natural disaster risks. I will take this one after the other so that you need to understand it better. Household, community, and state resilience. Economic fragility, socioeconomic fragility, sorry. Here it considers the socioeconomic activity of communities. If in a community, the major economic activity is the farm, then industries, and then a few government offices. You look at that community now as a baseline of economic activity, around farming, office work, services, and manufacturing, right? Now, these three economic activities actually are the determinant of the environmental fragility factors in that society. If the manufacturing industry spills its wastes in the society, it affects the environment of the entire society, right? If the farmers litter or maybe exploit the environment wrongly, it affects the environment, right? If the government offices do not carry out services to protect the environment, it affects the environment. Now that together, all that together makes the entire environment fragile. It exposes the environment risks. Now, if we look at the food security aspect, we see that what is food security? UN gave us a wide definition of food security: accessibility and ability of the population to be able to access as and when needed food. Now, as well as the sustainability of the food. If the environment, if a society, society X, for example, society X is able to have food always for its population, we'll say that it has food security. If society X has food deficit, meaning that its population is not able to get the nutrition it needs, then there is malnutrition, right? Then we say that there is food insecurity in that society. Currently, in most African economies, including Southern, we'll come to that later, including Southern African economic societies, we'll get to realize that there is huge food insecurity. There is child malnutrition. There is adult or old age poor nutrition as well. And then there is the huge youth unemployment that as well affects nutrition. Now you see that at that level, at this subcategory, food insecurity is obvious in the society. Now, if we look at the environmental health, for example, Southern Africa has had very severe instances or cases of HIV/AIDS for the past 3 decades. Now, in most of Africa, it is one of the sub-regions that is still having that case to date. We'll later come to when we treat Malawi and others. You see that up to date, some of these countries still have these environmental challenges. Now, there was the Ebola in West Africa. Now, Ebola was not so common in Southern Africa, but it was. Now, Ebola is an environmental disease. Now, if you look at Malawi, for example, there is malaria, there is cholera, there is measles. Now, these are the 3 common diseases that affect the population in that country. That's about environmental fragility. If our ability to look at those environmental health issues, if the environment, the society is able to curtail these environmental health realities, it is then environmentally safe. But when it is not able to curtail this, when it is not able to provide good health for the population, it's fragile. That's the subcategory of environmental health. Then uprooted people with climate change. We are being told that in the next 20 years, a lot of societies will not be where they are due to climate change. In seats, we'll come to seats later, but seats means a small island in the states. In seats, there is the reality that some of these island countries will lose their lands when sea level rise, 1.5 as I said. When the sea level rises, they will lose their land, and many homes will be moved. In the South-African sub-region where I come from, Nigeria to be very precise, up there enough, we have desertification. The Sahara is pushing inwards into the hinterland, and communities are moving. And there is crisis because those the needs, the communities they come into, we want to tell them, oh, you can't come here to come and take our farms. You understand? And then there's frequent crisis between farmers and others. And that is actually environmental, that's actually a people uprooted from the natural environment. In close to my village, there is a place called Agulonye. Agulonye is an important area of study because gully erosion over the years has eaten into societies. In fact, some ancestral lands have been taken away. In my own very village, when I was a child, my friends used to take me to a place. And as a child, maybe around 12, I was afraid to look at the depth at school. I'm not sure in Portugal here we have anything like that. No, it's a gully erosion. My parents did not know when it started. My grandparents' generation may have known. My great-grandparents may have known. But it's a gully erosion that climate change has made over the years. Is there a village today? My uncle that was working with the UN was trying to see how the UN could help in the feeling of the erosion. But this project is a massive one because it covers the whole of, let me not exaggerate, it covers the whole of the. It's more than the whole of the. The landmass is more than the whole of the. It's more than the European it's more than it. It's a huge erosion. As a child, I get afraid when I look at it. Even as an adult now, I've not gone to my village for some time. But if I go there today, I know I'll still have that emotion when I look at it. These are the realities of people uprooted from their So why I'm saying in that instance is that there are people who are living there before. My great grandparents are people who lived there before. But as the gully kept eating into the land, they moved, right? Now, what would you think my great grandfather was told my grandfather about his ancestors who lived there? Do you know that there are some of them that have been buried there? Yes, it's possible. Some of those places are rich with historic life that can be passed from generation to generation. But that historic life has been taken away by gully erosion. So the people that are put on their roots and be forced to relocate. Do you understand? I want us to really understand each of these subcategories so that when you go into research tomorrow, it will not sound new to you. If you want to take it up for your research, you need to understand that these are what these areas imply. Now, if we look at prevalence of infectious diseases, there has been prevalence of infectious diseases of different kinds in Sub-Saharan Africa, especially in our case of our Southern Africa. That is environmental fragility, where we have consistent, up to now, malaria does not have, COVID-19 is less than 3 years old, right? But there's a vaccine. Malaria has been there for ages, no vaccine. Yearly, at least, close to 200,000 children die of malaria only in my country. Close to 200,000. Now, imagine the whole of 54 countries in Africa. How many children die from it? Yet there is no vaccine. These are realities of prevalence of infectious disease. You may say malaria is not infectious. It is infectious because it's contagious. The mosquito bites me and goes to the next person and bites the other person. The person is sick. We grew up with that reality. It bites us every day. You understand? We grew up with that reality. I'll tell you from our own real life history. Every day mosquito bites you somehow. But the only thing is that you try to reduce the instance of it. These days, there are shelters to push it. As kids, we only put there's a mosquito coil. They call it mosquito coil. You light, you ignite it, and it spills out smokes. That's the only thing that drives mosquitoes away from the kids. As time goes on, as things evolve, we started having insecticides and other things to reduce it. When I finished my first degree in 2006, there's a thing called the National Youth Service in my country. And in the course of the National Youth Service, you would, after the military training, you go through military training, and you go to serve the community. In the community where I served in Mediguli, which later became a Boko Haram territory today, I did a sensitization workshop for malaria reduction through environmental care. What did I do? I taught local communities on how to clean drainages because mosquitoes thrive on stagnant waters. So you see, the prevalence of this infectious disease like malaria is what affects the health of the environment. It's what makes the health of the people not safe or fragile. Now, that is just malaria. There are other diseases. Climate change is with climate change realities, and there increase our prevalence of cholera. I grew up in the northern part of Nigeria. It's a sad story, but I have to tell you. There are times among the Muslims, because my Nigeria is, we have almost now 50%, then it was 60% Christians, 40% Muslims, but because of the higher birth rates among the Muslims, they marry 3 or 4 wives. They have one person that has 70 children, 80 children, so they have more population than us now. It is not, they have like 50-50 population or 54, 45 population, something like that, around that age. Now, because of the, during the compulsory Muslim fasting called Azumi, we call it in house Azumi, during the fasting, more people died. Now, our house where we grew up was on the way to a Muslim burial ground. Almost every day, 2-3 people are taken for burial during fasting. Almost every day. And you know the Muslims, they don't keep people in the mortuary like we do in Christians do. Maybe the person died back straight to the mortuary, straight to the cemetery and the burial. Now, this prevalence, why do people die more often during their fasting? Because most times these days things are changing, but that time their fasting usually falls within the dry season, and there is poor sanitation. Most of these people, after ending their fasts, they don't bother to wash their hands. They don't have time to wash their hands because of their quest for food. Let me rush some food. They rush into eating with dirty hands. Some from the toilets, they rush food to eat, and this breeds diseases like cholera. And within this dry season, usually in Nigeria, especially in the north where I grew up, there is usually cholera within the dry season. And because of the cholera, more people die. What is the symptoms of cholera? Vomiting, stooling. When somebody is fasting, you eat only little, right? That little you eat, when you vomit them all and then you stew them out, what is left in your body? You understand? And that is what needs to be death. Within their fasting period, they not they die, but sometimes they will count 5 corpses, 7 corpses. It's going to be very impressive. You see, that's actually because cholera is prevalent in that society within the dry season. That is another infectious disease. And one thing about cholera is that it can contaminate an entire family. When one person gets it, simply from the vomit, you are trying to claim from the other person, you take it, and then it spreads. You understand? So that is the case of infectious disease. Let me be faster to finish this. Economic fragility. Sorry, natural disaster risk. We have climate change. We have a lot of things happening in Southern Africa now. We have the risk to cholera is one of them because of poor sanitation. And then there is a study I did. I was supposed to be involved in the lady is a professor in Switzerland, and she works on disaster. On the environmental health risk in Africa. She selected a few countries like that. In her study, she studies about public toilets. I was like asking myself at the point initially that why public toilets? Why would this choose to do public toilets? But I got to realize from her study when I started reading all her works. I got to realize that she is doing something very important. I grew up in the part of Africa where water consumption is a challenge. Water availability is a challenge. So most households either dig a well close to their house. And one thing until recently I realized that we are not doing ourselves very good. They dig a hole to get water, right? Most times these wells are close to the toilets. Yes, most times they're close to the toilets. Most times. And if you can imagine, somebody goes to the toilet, pools and everything, and consumes the water directly in the well, this is the reality we've been living in. You understand? This is the reality many people have been living in. In the compound I grew up in, our own compound, we didn't have well. We only had public water supply. That job takes us to go fetch water with car. And there's a tap or anyway, in case our house is not running, we go fetch water. We didn't have it. But in those compounds there are wells. I just until recently I started thinking about this, until I saw that this work. And I realized that, this have been exposing themselves to this. Because they drink the water from the toilet, which is not very nice. It's groundwater, right? Normally, the groundwater flows from one position to the other. And in the parts of the country where I am from originally, in the eastern part of Nigeria, we are not like the Muslims who have central burial ground and all that. We bury our deaths within our houses, close to our houses. And that's the risk. Because burying your dead in the house is a beautiful thing, the tradition we love, so that you always go to the person's burial ground. We don't have a cemetery like you guys do in my community. We only have very close to our houses, so that you be close to your ancestors. That's the point. But it's risky because some people dig wells. These days, people dig lots of water, modern boreholes, modern boreholes. And these boreholes are sourced from groundwater, right? And groundwater flows, it permeates, then it goes to a particular source where it's or maybe it moves to the river. Now, if I dig a borehole here, Mr. A did a borehole there, Mr. B did a borehole there. I buried my grandmother here, Mr. B buried his grandfather there, Mr. C buried his uncle there. The water, the composition of the human body flows with the water and it goes down back to the water consumption without purification. Because most times these boreholes are not purified. That's actually the natural disaster risk. Now, to economic fragility, we have food security, we have long-term drivers of economic fragilities. What are the long-term drivers of economic fragilities? Food security, we discussed that before. It actually affects the inability of a society to feed itself or to provide food for its population. Actually affects this, in the long term, affects its economically. And then social development, employment, unemployment, and the ability of society to grow economically, socially, and otherwise. Then economic development specifically looks at development planning, development policies, development planning. When I came to Portugal in 2015, and up till now, the metro line stops at Matterhorn, you know. But by 2 years' time, the metro line will come to ISEG. That's development planning, right? Somebody told me that when he went to Portugal in the 90s, there were no metro lines. He said just a few of them existed. But now we have many of them, right? We have many lines. That's economic development. The government decides to consciously develop. But where I come from, we are still solving development. Where I come from, a lot of people who choose to take that money for that project. If you're in Nigeria now, we are preparing projects for this metro line. Somebody, the government might just sit and imagine this people. What will my children do tomorrow? What will my grandchildren do tomorrow? And he will take the money for the metro projects to Dubai, buy a big house, to Switzerland, open a big account, to any other country, to the US, buy a big house, to London, buy a big house. He has developed his pockets and then he decides not to do it. That is economic planning and poor economic development decisions. Now, states are regulatory quality. When there is effective state regulation, I was supposed to discuss this here, but I don't know if time allows. But state regulation on, for example, housing. You don't just stand up and start building houses here, do you? You don't just wake up and start building houses in Portugal, do you? You need utilization for every part of the building. In the country where I come from, you can wake up and start building a home. It's a business. The only people that will come to disturb you are people from the local government. They tell you, hey, you didn't tell us you're building a house here. So give us 20,000 naira and then we go. Or give us 200,000 naira, which is equivalent to 500 euros. You give them 500 euros to go. That's all. Nobody talks about the quality of the building, nobody talks about how safe it is, nobody talks about the standard and all that. And that is actually the main reason why most times when there are floods, like the one I'll be discussing in Mozambique, in Malawi, in most of these countries that are seriously affected by flood, houses collapse because there are no regulatory standards, there are no regulations. And that's what we mean by regulatory states in regulatory quality. The resource rent dependence. We know that in most of our commodity dependent countries, like in African countries, they depend on rents from oil companies, right? These companies pay rents to the government, and the governments, because of the huge rents they collect from oil companies, they do not look at the quality of work being done. Since 1989, a man has been fighting a Shell, the Dutch company in my country, for its oil spillage in the community. This is an interesting area of research. Oil spillage in sub-Saharan Africa. Choose a country, study it, you will see. I went to one of those communities in 2014, I chose to be around trip study of my country. I told myself at the point, I have known this country, but I don't know all the states. And I chose to travel. I was working, I would save my money, travel to these states, know what is happening there, beyond what I read in the news. And when I got to one of the oil producing communities, I cried. I honestly cried. I mean, men don't cry from where I come from, right? I really want to cry. Why? Because the water there is contaminated. The community has no good water to drink. Yes, they have no good water. All their waters are contaminated by oil. These companies manufacture and they keep exploring. The exploration goes on day and night, every day, every now and then, and it enters the groundwater everywhere. They don't care if the community has water, if the people in the community have water to drink or not. They don't care. All they care is to explore the money, pay the rent to the state, and then make their money and keep back home. Nobody cares about the ordinary man in that society. Nobody cares about the children in that society. Nobody cares about the sustainability of the environment in that society. Now, that's actually one of the factors when we look at resource rent dependence. When the state depends on resource, like in most of these countries mentioned, the state depends on rent and does not really bother itself about economic diversification. Here in Portugal, I was surprised to travel to Beja, and I saw that there is actually resource here. I used to hear that there is no natural resources in Portugal until I went to Beja, and for myself, I saw that there is actually something like a natural resource exploration going on here in Beja, and the state does not depend on that. But when we come from, say, oh, thank God we found something. The state will not think about economic diversification anymore. We focus on getting rents from there, and then we think less of developing the other aspects of the economy. That is actually one of the drivers of the fragility, especially in our own part of the world. Now, age dependence. That's another important factor. Where because of certain reasons, states cannot generate their own independent age. This has been happening between the 90s and early 2000s, and has actually affected a lot of our economies, and we see that at the end of the day, they are very fragile. Remoteness. In most cases, you see that communities are remote, are very remote. They are not connected to economic centers. In a political economy, we call it peripherals. The peripherals. When the peripherals are not able to get to the center, they are actually very fragile, because the funds or the assistance or the distribution that should get to them doesn't get to them. You understand? You cannot compare your income with the person living in Bagasa, in some remote village in BC. You understand? Because you are the center. You have ability to get jobs easier here than here. Like that person there, except if the person has a farm or has resources. You understand? But if the person does not have any of these things, you see that the difference between being at the center and at the periphery affects that person in most cases. It makes the person economically fragile, right? Now, we look at political fragility today, checks and balances, protection of human rights, political state terror. Before now, a political state terror, we would liken this to realities that occur where states intimidate our citizens or people. Imagine intimidation against opposition. Like we have one of the states we look at Swaziland, where the state has declared that there is no room for opposition party. We see that it's actually a problem for people to really save their mind, to aid their views. It has been because of the crisis in that country for quite some years now. Because some opposition factors have been fighting for the elimination or reduction of the state's power. In Tunisia, we have something like that. If you have been in the news, is the new president or the current president has allocated lots of power to himself, shut down the assembly, and at the end of the day, he is so more powerful that he has taken over some powers of the assembly and making the states a terror to its citizens. Like we have now, the president recently went to arrest lots of people who were against him. You understand? And that's actually the state's terror, where the states actually, in Portugal here, we have something like that. During the CEsA era, those who were against the states, you understand? And that's actually the state's terror. Our voice and accountability, still talking about checks and balances and protection of human rights. Our voice and accountability, where people have ability to voice their minds and hold the state to accountable, hold leaders of the state to be accountable, right? That's actually enables the states from that's the states of being fragile. Then we have judicial constraints. Where there are judicial constraints, you find that it has a long-run effect for political fragility. Where legislative constraints also exist. In some societies, the state does not, the judiciary system does not just make a law that the executive respects. That affects political fragility. And then legislative fragility also, where the legislative arm is not able to freely express and remain independent. We all know that in the modern governance system, the three arms of government are all independent, right? The three arms of government are independent, right? The legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. In some societies, it's also some executive leaders who want to control the judiciary and want to control the assembly as well. You understand? In that case, it affects it makes the state fragile in the long run. Then regime persistence. We see this happening in most countries of the world, where regimes want to keep a certain power for so long, right? Not actually, it's actually a driver of political fragility. Then that's political stability. Sorry, that affects political stability and in long run affects political fragility. Then we look at state legitimacy. In some cases, some administrations are not welcomed by people. There is no legitimacy. For example, a coup d'etat is not actually accepted by people, right? It's not instigated by people. Unlike in normal system, right? But in coup d'etat, they oppose themselves, and that actually is state's legitimacy. The legitimacy of that government is not determined by people, and in the long run, it creates political instability and then political fragility. Security fragility. We look at the rule of law, state and territorial control. This is one aspect where we look at fragility today and affects how school is through things like territorial control. We have the reigning thing now, which is insurgency, right? Religious insurgency, the Islamic states, and then what's the name? Al-Qaeda. They try to control territories, and those two territories they control, they become sub-national actors. They lie down and they create their own states, and they try to control their own territory, thereby creating room for security fragility. The reason why the US went into the war in Afghanistan was because it was threatened, it was attacked by the Al-Qaeda group, right? That attack itself created security fragility in the world because it became a non-state actor trying to destabilize one state. And because of that, states have to unite to fight them. And then security apparatus. The ability of security apparatus to actually carry out the actions and be able to create or rather ensure law and order in society ensures economic stops economic security fragility. Where the state apparatus are not able to control society, law and order in society, stopping from taking arms away, taking minority lands, then we have security fragility. The presence of non-state armed groups. Like I did mention, we have, okay, we'll come to that, we'll come a bit more detail into that when we come to historical conflicts. You see non-state actors taking arms. You see non-state actors taking weapons, either to propagate their mission or to fight their rivals. Then we have the rule of law. All these are factors that leads to security fragility. Then armed conflicts, terrorism, organized crime, and group violence. They all are all determined usually by either level of violence and crime activities, level of violence, crime activities, interpersonal or social violence, conflict risks, and then terrorism. Like I did discuss about terrorism now, they try to take arms to propagate what we believe in. They try to stand against the state. They start to stand against the establishment. They start to stand against every other person. They do not respect the authority, they don't respect society, and then they create state security fragility. If you are conversant with global realities or global issues, you would understand that there was a suppression of Islamic terrorism, leading to the death of Osama. There was a suppression, but after the death of Osama, there seemed to be a suppression. After the death, before the death of Osama, there was the death of Islamic State in 2011. Sorry. Now, after September 11, there was 2015. Sorry, the death of Islamic State. The Islamic State of ISIS, the Islamic State of Levant, yeah. Since the Islamic States arose, there have been resurgence in terrorism. And with the defeat of the triumph of the Taliban government, the return of the Taliban government to Afghanistan, there has been increased security or global fragility in terms of security. There has been increased pressure on states from Islamic groups. In my country where I come from, it's been a top battle between the state and these state actors. You will not understand what we talk about so long until unless you see or experience it. What I was doing, in 2011 to be precise, I was doing a PhD program in mass communication. I was working in Kano. I was from South Kano in Nigeria. Kano is one of the second largest cities in Nigeria. And one day I was moving from work to the school for classes. I was in the park. As I just left the park, I was rushing for classes. I was getting it. So I just told the driver, please, listen. He was like, he's losing for somebody. I will pay for that person. That was how we paid for the person I moved. On getting to school, I had not gotten to school. I was still at the school bits. Somebody called me that place where I was, that a bomb was exploded. Everybody got died. Everybody got died. Meaning that if you had waited with the driver to get the passengers, maybe I would not be here today. These are realities. You will not understand the impact of states of these terror activities unless and until it has come close to you. I live in a place in Kano. It's the place where Christians live. We call it somewhere in the house, a new city. Now, this place is a place where Christians, Muslims don't conclude. Even if they bring an darkness, we don't conclude. So we call ourselves to order. Christians are here, everybody come bring us any army can raise and then we fight them. Because they always come to against you. Now, because of the place we live, this tells us means that we cannot hit Christians easily except if they use suicide bombers. One day I was coming from work and I was told that a bomb was exploded in my area. As I was getting home, I didn't know who was involved until the Sunday after that event. I can't remember the exact date, but I know on Sunday, when I got to church, a member of my church, I belong to the Sacred Heart of Jesus group, and a sister of ours, her husband, who occasionally comes to us to join us in prayers, was one of those who was a victim. In fact, the suicide bomber, in fact, the man was very down on his voice conflicts because the bomb exploded and scattered the head everywhere. So you see some put hand on this roof, somebody's head on the other roof, somebody's head on the other roof. It's that bad. These are terrorists of people who take up arms against it and want to create security fragility. And in my country, there's huge security fragility because beyond those terror attacks, they have a new wave. I was here when I started calling them bandits. Bandits take people. It's no longer a case of if somebody is poor and wants or hungry and wants to get money and goes to someone's bank and take money. No, they steal human beings. It's not about they steal people for ransom. Yeah, they steal people for ransom. And sometimes they will kill people with and collect the ransom. Sometimes these are cases of security fragility. Then we'll come down to the last one, which is societal fragility. Societal fragility is actually occasioned by access to justice, accountability, and horizontal inequality. It is also underpinned by voice and accountability, access to justice. Horizontal fragility in this case, when we say horizontal, it means something side by side, right? Ability of you and your neighbor to stand, or maybe you and someone within the same qualification to stand close to each other in terms of economic strength. Now, in a society where we have where there is inequality in the society and people, you and I graduate from one course and we're unable to get a job, you got a job, you understand? Then there is imbalance, right? And then you see that at the end of the day, it affects the equality of people in society. That actually affects societal fragility. Where people are not happy because of the difference in income level and difference in strength. So we look at the area study, the place we are discussing today, Southern Africa. Where is Southern Africa? It is the southernmost part of the African continent. It has the southern oceans. On this side, it has the Atlantic Ocean. To the right, it has the Indian Ocean, and at the bottom, it has also called the Southern Ocean. These three oceans actually determine the weather of Southern Africa. It is not like the other parts of like West Africa and East Africa because of the presence of these three oceans. There is the South Pacific continental zone, and there is the South Indian continental zone, and there is also the southern parts. These are actually the seas affect the weather of that area. It's similar to what you have here because of the presence of winter, the experience winter. We now we don't know what is winter. We don't know what is winter. We don't have winter. We only have summertime. When we discussed West Africa, we discussed that actually. The Indian Ocean, these three oceans are the coastlines of South Africa. So we have like 2,000 kilometers on the coast of these oceans, the three oceans. I mean. Then Mozambique has 2,470 kilometers, and Namibia has 1,570. The inland, I didn't include all the countries here because I too much. I didn't include the Seychelles, Comoros, Madagascar, and Mauritius. These are inside the countries that are bounded by the sea all around. The inland of Southern Africa is made of rolling plateaus that occupies most of South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, and extends into the heart of the river. Zambia and Zimbabwe are related by highlands and coastal mountains, with escarpments beautifying the highlands, predominantly in northern Mozambique, Namibia, Angola, and stretching into Mozambique, as well as Zimbabwe border. Between the hinterlands and Indian Ocean are coastal plains in Mozambique and Atlantic. Mozambique are essentially coastlines in Angola and Namibia. Why do people like going to these countries for tourism? Because it is a beautiful landscape, and because of that, you have beautiful animals as well. You have elephants, you have zebras, you even have lions. Sorry?
They ran away with the war.
That's true. That's true. You don't know who it was. That's true. That's very true. Especially Congo. Congo, Mozambique as well. The most interesting things they was. That's true. And I was also, I would love to discuss a topic here. I don't know if time will allow us on landmines. Landmines have actually affected most of these animals, which is the white line, and even human settlements. Because of the landmines that were set in Mozambique, especially during the period of the war between 1963 till now, till 1982, there has been a lot of activities, a lot of landmines. Animals are no longer there. Farmlands are no longer cultivated because of the landmines put in different places by different functions, the fevereiro and the we'll come to talk about that. The key depression of Southern Africa is made by the Kalahari Desert. You know about the Kalahari Desert, right? The famous Kalahari Desert in Southern Africa. It's stretched into other continents. Actually, it's actually a very dry desert. One of the driest deserts in the world. Kalahari and Sahara are the driest in the world. They are one of the driest in the world. The Kalahari Desert actually puts in hot air into the continent. It helps to diffuse the cold moisture from the three oceans around the Southern African province, the Southern African regions. The greater campaign that presents practice in straight line from the Zambezi River in Angola, most of the southern Zimbabwe, southern Zimbabwe to South Africa are within Scotland and grasslands, Climate of Southern Africa. The location of Southern Africa between the tropics between the tropics and temperate systems make it carrying out to atmospheric relations. Latitudinal shifts in tropical convergence zones. The west lies south of the continent and cyclones located at over the southern Atlantic, western Indian Ocean, both influence precipitation and rainfall from the Southern Africa. What I want to put on this slide is the Aguilhas. I don't know how you pronounce it, but in English you can say Aguilhas. The Aguilhas, yeah, it's the current flow from the river that precipitates and brings away. The Aguilhas current flows along the east and south coast of the sub-region, that's the entire Southern African sub-region. The warm water current flows through the streets of Madagascar, southeastwards along the Indian Ocean coast, overshoot swelling reaching the southernmost tip of the continental cape of the continent before the Cape Aguilhas returns into the Indian Ocean around the introflexion area, around the introflexion area, southwest of Africa, and the Aguilhas current. In the course of these movements, a little part of the current leaves and is known as Aguilhas leakage. Leaves the Aguilhas leakage, which leaves the Cape Basin to flow into the Southern Atlantic Ocean. The Aguilhas currents are first precipitation in the entire Southern African region. You see, like we know very well, areas closer to the river or to the sea or to the ocean usually get more rain, right? Because of precipitation. Just like if I live in Beja. Beja is not close to the sea ocean, right? Beja, I don't expect to get siblings because somebody will be cash. Right? Because of precipitation. Now, Aguilhas is something important or something kind of because it flows from the banks of the ocean. And it's flowing through those banks of the ocean. Actually, it comes with a lot of precipitation that brings down rain. You understand? Drivers of fragility in Southern Africa. Most authors, most scholars, most researchers on Southern African on fragility, I agree that there are casual and multidimensional as well as mutually reinforcing each other. Levels of fragility, meaning that it is not just one point that drives fragility. There are multi-dimensional areas. Just like today, previously during the NDG days, poverty used to be studied from particular areas, right? Economic areas and all that. But today, poverty is studied from multi-dimensional areas because there are multi-dimensional areas of poverty. Just the same way with fragility, there are multi-dimensional areas of fragility. That is why we look at the environment, we look at the economy, we look at the society, we look at the political, we look at security. These are motivational aspects through which I will look at the subject of fragility. Now, fragility traps. The conflict, there are traps that determine fragility, certain aspects, certain things that determine or keeps commit societies in a fragile situation. One of them is conflict trap. Another is natural resource trap. Then the other is the trap of being landlocked. Did I mention landlocked today? I've not mentioned landlocked today. Landlocked countries are specifically usually in fragile situation because, especially when they have bad neighbors. You will not understand it. Okay, let's see. The Switzerland of today, Switzerland of today is not fragile because it has good relationship with France and Germany. But the Switzerland of 2 centuries ago was fragile, right? During the times of the wars. Yes, the history tells us that they had to make alliance with Germany in the United States because they are in between 2 strong powers. Germany on one side and France on the other side. Any of these power can just an example, they are in between 2 strong powers. The same thing happens to landlocked countries. Landlocked countries are countries that do not have access to the sea. Here in Portugal, we have access to the sea. Landlocked countries do not have access to the sea. They don't have direct contact to the sea. Because of that, we know that most trading activities happen through the sea, right? Ships bring containers, right? Now, because of that, these countries that are landlocked do not have access to the sea. They need their neighbors who have access to the sea to get goods. You understand? So if they do not have, if they have good neighbors, then trade goes on well. When they have bad neighbors, they will die of hunger. So, cardinal to fragility is weak institutions. Okay, there's also the bad governance trap. And the bad governance trap is just like what we discussed under political fragility, where we have bad leadership. Instead of investing on a project, somebody will choose to move the money to a particular country to go and enjoy in his family or build houses or buy houses for his children. You understand? Those are elements of corruption, elements of bad governance. Now, cardinal fragilities are the weak institutions, sorry. Poverty is linked to fragility, yes, not all poor regions are fragile. Do you agree with that? Not all poor regions are fragile. Good. It is being said that there is a relationship between fragility and poverty. When somebody is, when a society is poor, it's not able to meet up with basic needs. It is fragile. When someone offers argue that there is no not all poor regions are fragile. There are poor regions that are not fragile. They are stable. They manage themselves. I'll give you an example. Seychelles. Seychelles was not this good economy before. It's part of the countries we're looking at. Seychelles is an island country. Trade, most of the international trade does not pass through Seychelles. It doesn't have most of the advantages that other countries do have. Because it is able to manage its resources within itself. It's able to conserve its thing within itself. The 115 islands in Seychelles are able to interchange among themselves, to maintain what they have within themselves. It was able to help them to be resilient. They are not fragile today. They're not that fragile. They are fragile for climate reasons, but not completely for political reasons. You understand? So the focus of this study is not on state fragility, like I mentioned before, but on drivers of fragility at the micro level of society. That is households, businesses, and communities. Key drivers of fragility at the micro level are conflicts, natural disasters, epidemic or pandemics, whichever. In relation with at the macro aspect of society as the state itself. We look at poor governance, we look at economic and social exclusion, we look at economic collapse or increasing unabated poverty rates. look at religious extremism, ideological exclusion, arms proliferation. I want to talk about arms proliferation because excuse me. It is a multiplication of arms in societies that leads to crime. Terrorism itself is being encouraged by arms proliferation. If I have a gun now and I'm hungry, I don't have money, right? What do you think I'll do? I'll get what I want to know. I'll go to what I have. You can go to people and say, hey, everybody, put your head on the ground. I think that's what I do. That is arms proliferation, when there are so many arms in society. Why we have so much crime in some communities and some sites, in the US, for example. US is an advanced society, accepted, right? United States is an advanced society, right? It is rich economy, right? It's an organized system, right? But there is huge crime. Why? Because of the proliferation of crimes. Europe has no crime rates. Why? Because there are no arms in society. Where you have usually unregistered arms, especially. Because if you register your arm, you don't want to use it anyhow because it will just to you. But when you have unregistered arms everywhere, people tend to use it anyhow. Because they're not traced. Because they're not traced, they can actually do whatever they want. And at the end of the day, it helps to drive fragility in society. So we also have the resource curse. I don't know, you might have heard of the resource curse, right? Okay, let me explain about it. It is understood that when you have a natural resource that brings you big money, you can assess and do that. Right?
Depends how you use that.
Thank you very much. That's where the curse comes from. Most resource-rich countries are poor because not that they don't get the money, they get the money, but because of how they use it. That's where it takes us back into corruption, where people use the money of the states for personal aggrandizements. You see that the wealth of the nation is hidden in pockets. Like I'll give you an example of Africa. I come from Nigeria. The richest man in Africa is Dangote. You cannot completely tell how Dangote got all his money from. We Nigerians who know about the history will tell you that it is connected to politics and it's connected to people in power. Because people in power want to have the money and not let the state know. So they use this business name to keep the money. So he uses the money to do business and he says, oh, he's the richest man, he's an intelligent man. He knows how to make money. You understand? Okay, now, apart from that, there are also very rich people in Nigeria who cannot account for their wealth. Account for their wealth. You cannot tell where the money came from, but they are so rich. Yeah, he doesn't have any business anywhere. Yeah, but it's so rich. That accounts for issues of resource curse, where people have access to resources. I'll give you an example. During the military regime in my country, the military president assigned an oil well. You know what an oil well is? Where a company extracts oil from to somebody. A tailor of his wife, who is very friendly with his wife, met him, and then the next time, now that you are leaving, please help me, put me in the line so that I'll never be poor again. And he said, okay, fine. You are very good, you'll be very nice with my wife. You'll be very good for my wife. Take this oil well. Tell the state secretary, everybody sign it. This oil well now belongs to this woman. And now she's the richest woman in Africa. One of the richest women in the world. Alakija is her name. Alakija, one of the richest women in the world. She's competing with Isabel dos Santos. And she said to each other, we don't know, but the session with each other because of the enormous wealth. She's got this oil well where companies pay her lots of rents every month. And she has other businesses she has to facilitate. So you see, this is actually the research case where resources that belong to the states don't go to the people. I told you I went to some of the communities where they get this oil from. These communities do not have anybody in the community who owns an oil well. But people from the north, a king from the north, a sultan from the north, has an oil well in the community. He doesn't live there, he has never been there, like he only comes to visit and go. just signed with his name because people from his region has had access to power. And because they say, oh, let's do our king or Europe. Because our king was not before. So that's the research case.
But it has like something to do with just being relying on one source.
Yeah. The resource case is where a system where a state depends on that resources. Instead of going from that resources, it's bad governance, like you mentioned before, bad governance, corruption, and all that. Because of that, that's a state is not able to develop itself or its people or its society from the blessings of or from the wealth of that place. It rather uses it to aggrandize individuals. And this individual aggrandizement actually becomes a system. They call it the Guscos. The Dutch disease. It's called the Dutch disease. It's common in most countries, not just in Africa, in South America, in Asia, it's a common thing. Most commodity dependent economies have this problem of resource costs. When they have resources. Mozambique in the early 2000s discovered oil, it discovered gas, it discovered coal. Three resources. Cabo Delgado, good. You see, in Cabo Delgado, before the terrorists took over Cabo Delgado, more companies were pumping to Cabo Delgado to go and explore crude oil. And everybody expected that Cabo Delgado would be better than Lisbon in 5 years. Yes, because a lot of money was coming out of Cabo Delgado. Everybody thought that the state will use the money to develop the people and develop the place. But it's still one of the poorest places in Southern Africa because the ancestors, the leaders aggrandize this money and they use it to put into their personal pockets rather than developing the society. So, demographic stress. When we look at demographic stress, we look at the population of people to a particular location at a particular time. Right now, the population of Lisbon is approximately 10 million, right? Approximately 10 million. Portugal, sorry, Portugal. 2 million, yeah, I'm referring to Portugal as a whole. The population of almost 11 million, 10 million population of Portugal. Now, imagine Portugal and imagine Switzerland, a smaller country, the same population as Portugal, or almost same population as Portugal, 9 to 10 million. You understand? You see that the population stress, the demographic stress on that location is more there than here. That is why it's really the same here. You understand? That's why it will be more difficult to be out there. And over time, this demographic stress, especially where there is youth unemployment, where there is a poor economic strength, and where there is inequality, it leads to conflict and crime, and then brings about fragility in society. You understand? I know Switzerland is part of this, but we'll transfer it back to the economy to see that these are realities that happen themselves. And then we have high youth employment, super power person. During the time of the Cold War, there was this battle between the US and who? Russia. Good. That's a battle did not happen in the US, did it? It didn't happen in Russia, did it? Where did it happen? It happened, but it never happened in these countries. It happened in poorer countries. In Cuba. It happened in Cuba. It happened in Angola. It happened in Mozambique. Yes, there was battle between the forces in Angola that led to MPA inviting Cuba, and then what was the other one? The FNLA inviting South Africa, and you need to invite South Africa, and then FNLA inviting Zaire. You see that during that period of the Cold War, there was actually a battle that poorer countries were suffering from the battle. Just like what is happening today with the Russian war. Inflation is everywhere, yes, but it is more in some places. The rising costs today in Portugal, you cannot feel it so much. But if you go to developing countries where we come from, you see that the cost is high. I'll give you an example: bread. Since the Russian war began, the cost of bread has not moved beyond 50 cents here. But in some other economies, especially developing economies in sub-Saharan Africa, you see that the cost of bread has tripled. A household that used to depend on, let's say, €2 bread for their meal, their breakfast, will now have to pay like 6 or 7 euros to feed a day. Now imagine the cost each day of the week, 7 days by 4 weeks. You see that there is actually that problem where the super power also affects the poorer countries. Even in Ukraine, the battle is not about Ukraine, is it? It's not always about Ukraine. Ukraine is just a battleground. I don't know if you, it depends on how you argue it.
Why you say that?
Good. It's not about Ukraine. Why is Russia going to war?
Why
Because it doesn't want the UN. No, not why I think. Why is Russia? I asked this. Why is Russia going to war? Okay, fine. Russia is fighting against the what do you call them? The powers, the super powers are coming from taking more territories, right? What do you call them? What do you call them? NATO is trying to stop NATO from moving an inch more into Ukraine, right? Russia is trying to stop NATO from taking over Ukraine, and Ukraine wants to join NATO. That's what led to the war, right? Because somebody is trying to stop somebody from getting closer to this territory, and then somebody is trying to say, no, you can't stop me. The people they have their freedom of choice. So it is now the ordinary, the lower power that suffers it, because the people.
You think that war only began now?
It didn't begin now. It began in 2014. The incarnation of an exposition of our career. Then, yeah. You understand? That actually is a remote force. But the immediate force right now, because of the territorial shifts or territorial incursion, it's happened during the Cold War. You remember? When US was trying to Russia was aligning with Cuba, the US said, no, you can't help this. You understand? You can't do the Cold War. So it's actually a sort of super power also. The small powers suffer it. In Africa, we have this program that says, when two elephants fight, who suffers it? The gases. So it's actually an economic reality. When two elephants fight, the gases suffer. You understand? So when you guys have, okay, come. Sorry, right? Then we look at our conflicts and historical shocks in sub-region. Whether it is to be a region or sub-region. My supervisor during my PhD was is a political economist who specialized in regionalism. And in their professional definition of region could be the combination of two countries who have agreements on a particular area. So it could be actually southern Africa could be a region, could be a sub-region, depending on how you define it. So why I'm actually explaining all this is that you need to understand when you see sub-regions. So sometimes I use sub-regions, sometimes I use region. I use sub-region when I refer to a sub-part of Africa. You understand? But I also use region when I refer to countries who need to have agreements to stick to that in the community, like SADC. You understand? That's why the region, when I do sub-region, is part of Africa. Now, most former colonies, most former countries in Southern Africa. Sorry, that should be most former colonies, most countries in Southern Africa had conflicts on their way to independence or shortly after it. Most of these conflicts lasted for years and some decades. This is one aspect I am trying to avoid in this discussion. Because every scholar who looks at state fragility looks at the historic aspects. They tell you that one of the major drivers of fragility is history, the colonial history, the slavery history, the all these historic aspects. My study is trying to distinguish itself from a historical aspect, because we are trying to argue that it is not just about the history of rights fragility in most of these countries today, but to contemporary realities. That is the position of this paper. That's the position of this research. That beyond, of course, the historical aspect matters, but beyond the history, contemporary realities are there that are driving fragility and will keep the sub-region fragile in the coming future, making sustainability very difficult to take. So in Mozambique, for example, the Fred Delivery Mozambique, Frelimo, launched his first attack on Salazar Cateno Royal Colonial Government in 1964. Portugal declared war on independence fighters, which led to widespread atrocities from both sides, especially the Portuguese armed forces. Between 1964 and 1973, this was the period of the struggle for independence. This was the first war in Mozambique. Now, within these 9 years of struggle, lots of people were killed, lots of things were destroyed, lots of investments were destroyed. Mines, as also one of the was actually one of those who had to leave Mozambique. And each time she tell me her own story, I feel it. Philippines, growing up in a society, and all of a sudden one night, just one night, you are told back of this and you're going. You know how painful it is, how detached it is. Most of you grew up in Portugal. Imagine that something happens now, so you get to pack your things and go, and you will never come back to Portugal. You are detaching yourself, you are being detached from your roots in Philippines. But actually, these are actually part of the survival struggles. These are some of the struggles that are called the quest for independence. And then it is UN reported that there were 30 to 43,000 civilian deaths. I have a problem with political sometimes. I love one former president of Nigeria, who once said during his election campaign, and that became the mantra of his political career. He said, "My political interests should not force the life of any." I love that. My political interests. He practiced it, yes. When the current president won at the heat of all this, the current president won against him, and he called him personally. Congratulations. He called him to congratulate him. That makes it an icon of democracy in Africa. Today, he's being respected for that. He willingly, when he won against him, he willingly gave up. Unlike other schools are not impossible. You understand? That's actually some of this. Why I'm actually recounting on this, that some of these deaths that keep occurring sometimes are things that can be resolved on the table. The World War wouldn't have happened if Adolf Hitler sat down on the table and said, "Hey, I was translating this," and then we said this. Millions of people died during the World War. They didn't have died. No, now, you see, the most deaths happened between 1971 and 73. And then there was a huge malnutrition. And in April 1974, there was a military coup that in Portugal, I'm sorry, Portugal is here. In Portugal, they are led to the end of the Cevada Catalan RPG. And with the international pressure on Portugal, Mozambique was her independence. But that was not the goal for Mozambique. It was her independence and then our independence. That was not the goal for Mozambique. They thought they had gotten independence. But that was not the prerequisites. There was opposition for the war. That led to another war. There were 3 wars altogether, 3 batches of war in Mozambique, and they stabilized the country. Now, within these 3 wars, there was the Liberation War, which was the first one in 1964 to 74. And then there was the 76 to 80 Rhodesian War, when our neighbor Rhodesia was trying to influence the position of the Renamo. The Renamo, yeah, the resistance, sorry, Sia National Mozambique. They were trying to, because Zaire was also a colonial entity, a settler government. They were trying to resist or to push down the now independent Mozambican government, and then they influenced the resistance fighters to actually destabilize those zones so that they would gain their own legitimacy. So that tomorrow in Rhodesia, there will be no freedom fighter. But they were trying to avoid that as it didn't play out well, and there was a war for 4 years. Now, this 4 years war later shifted its focus with the independence of Rhodesia itself. Now it's Zimbabwe, right? The independence of Rhodesia in 1980. The war shifted its focus to South Africa. That is why South Africa, the Renamo focused on the South Africa, and the Cold War itself had its effect. That's what we discussed now on Mozambique. And then within this period of 3 wars, there is something I wanted to discuss here. I would like to discuss here: the presence of mines in Mozambique. What are mines? They are ground bombs, right? Good. Ground bombs are people set to stop their enemy from encroaching into their territory, right? Good. If imagine that there is a war now, they're not paying for that. Imagine there is a war now, and I control this territory, and you control the other territory after the military. You will try to stop me from coming into your territory, and then you plant bombs in the village so that I don't encourage. So that if I try to encourage to explode when I die, right? Or my students will die. Now, the same, that is what these 2 sides will do. They were planting bombs in villages. They were planting bombs in the villages, and we cannot even tell them. Today, they cannot tell where all the bombs are. There is a map I would love to bring there because of time. We don't have the time. We would have seen the presence of mines in Mozambique in some city. In the bread center of Mozambique, Zambezi, Beira area, you see lots of mines. And because these places are so rich in agricultural resources, they are so rich in their soil strength, they would have been able to cultivate lots of agricultural produce. But because of the presence of mines, villagers cannot cultivate. Because when they try to cultivate, the mines explode. These are mines, some of the mines are like 30 years old, some 20 years old, 40 years old. The mines are still there. Up to now, the UN is still struggling to remove the mines. That's why up to now, there is still explosion of old mines in the country. And then some UN bodies are helping to excavate the mines. Now, the main conflicts that isolates the young country began with the creation of the Resistance Nationale in 1977. With the south, in the south of the Rhodesia minority white settler government. The independence of Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe in 1980, promoted Renana to turn to South African colonial powers for support when they lost support. The Renamo, the white Islamic governments were fueling the war from their end. They were funding Renamo, they were getting weapons from them. Now, when they lost their legitimacy and lost independence in Zimbabwe, the Renamo people turned to South Africa for support. The conflict lasted from 1977 to 1992. That was the last of the conflict, and witnessed over 1 billion deaths. The 16-year-long war led to losses between $16 to $18 billion at a time when the country's GNP was just less than $2 billion. They lost a wealth. If they make less than $2 billion in 1 year, well, they lost over $18 billion in the 16 years. Meaning that the resources that would have made the country a beautiful country were lost at the years. And then heavy independence of that, I believe that we will also heavy independence of aid. It is now a landmine habits due to wars. In South Africa, the struggle for independence propelled by a series of conflicts, the economic segregation of blacks by white settlers, which led to the economic marginalization of blacks in South Africa, till date, propels periodic conflicts, including the recent, my spelling ownership. I must apologize for the spelling errors I have. It's not like somebody did something funny to me. I had prepared my slides and prepared my this presentation. When somebody, I didn't save them in my back of file in the system here. Somebody came on my system yesterday. All these things, all these slides will be between. So the original one was, I can't find it. I went to the IT guys, they searched all the system. So basically, even up to today, we see incidents of xenophobia recently in South Africa. And we will keep seeing that because there is, if you go to South Africa, you see, you understand what we're talking about. There is the economic strength of the country built around the whites, and then the poor citizens are the lower end of society. Because at that time, in the 1960s, when this identity card registration, they wanted every person to be registered, any black person, any colored person. They call it colored person, any black person. They wanted everybody to register with ancestry, linking you to your race. Now, it is that race segregation that means if you're able to get a job, it doesn't matter how educated you are, it doesn't matter how enlightened you are, what matters is your race. The ability to get to work into the civil service, the ability to get to the economy, determines is done by the race. Now, within these 30 years or 40 years of practice of this system, the country was divided into races. You know what Mahatma Gandhi was in South Africa? If you know his history, Mahatma Gandhi was in South Africa. Yeah, it is because of the oppression in South Africa that made people go back to South Africa for independence in India. Now, even our own beloved, what's his name? It was his point. Pessoa, God bless you. Pessoa was also in South Africa, you see? Yeah. You see, South Africa became a point of knowledge then. That's why Pessoa went there. Because the universities were wonderful there. And not saying still. Because of the center of attention, because of the center of South Africa became an important of attention. Because the reason why conflict occurs in South Africa is what I'm talking about, because of that segregation and disparity. Because of disparity, up to now, the back of people, and from time to time, people such protests, you see them burning and hitting enterprises because they are protesting about without showing nature of their lives. We look at Angola now. The struggle for independence led by Movimento Popular de Libertação da Angola, MPLA. Then later on, the Frente Nacional de Libertação da Angola, and then the UNITA, United Union Nacional para a Libertação. Sort of the struggle in Portuguese fighting to retain control. The colonial power was trying to fight to retain control. This MPLA people came up to ask for independence. They fought for independence. Now, while fighting for independence, another group came up, which is the FNLA. FNLA came up and fighting for independence. Now, another group also came up, which was MPLA, fighting for independence. One bottom line that's the defining moments after the 16 years of fighting. Okay, before the 14 years of before the independence, the clash between the three indigenous powers resulted in the inviting of different armies to come and help crush their enemies. In the most immediate intervention when the left out was the MPLA invited Cuba. FNLA invited South Africa, and then UNITA invited Zaire. UNITA invited South Africa, and then FNLA invited Zaire. Why did Zaire fail? Zaire needed to then, even if it was led by a colonial government, Zaire did not have professional skills. The South African military did not have the political will. That was why the Cuban military succeeded in crushing the prisoners. And because of that crushing, it's led to the pulling out of the military reinforcement, military powers from Zaire and from South Africa. Pulled out most of the independence. And after the independence, everybody thought that there was a whole, right? There was a freedom. Everything was fine. The war began. There was no agreement. Why would you want? Because there was no agreement on power sharing. On power sharing. Each of them had their forces. They had their territories to control. There was no agreement on power sharing. And because of this, there was war. And the war led to, every war has a secret, right? Every war has something. If you don't have money, you cannot fight war. That's the truth. If you don't have money, you cannot fight war. It is money that instigates war. I'll be talking about another thing now. I believe a lot of the time looking at the inducements. Now, let me focus on this. Now, you see, within this period of that war, the second war, which was after the independence of Angola, Angola is so blessed with diamonds, one of the best diamonds in the world. And as at that time, they were the fourth largest in the world, and theirs was special. And because of that, the territory, the different parts went scrambling for the areas really by diamonds, especially the position of UNITA, FNLA. One of them got the diamond rich area and was using it. Let me see. Okay, yeah. Like in DRC and Sierra Leone, natural resource was of high interest to the rebels who paid over $3.7 billion from diamond sale. Angola has one of the highest quality diamonds in the world, with gem or million quality. At independence, it was the fourth largest, highest or largest source of diamond. To date, diamonds from the northeast and oil-rich area of Cabinda in the northwest Angola. From Angola. Angola's main source of oil exchange. You see, the country is so rich with natural resources. It takes us back to the discussion of resource costs, right? The country is so rich with diamond and oil. From Cabinda, oil, and then from the northeast area, diamond. These two resources was what the rebel leaders were depending on, so that they sell them, they make money, and they fund their war. You understand? And because of that, they were able to control the territories well. Otherwise, any of them were lost. Now, the huge capital or the huge income from that was able to help them retain that. Up to today, they still have that challenge.
They were also supported by Russian USA.
That's true. There was the spot power factor.
Because the
South Africa.
A lot of forces from UNITA were in the countryside of the regions.
Yeah.
But they were not especially in Kaduna. They were more
on the peripheries.
Yeah, the south.
Yeah.
So they have to be supported by
other countries. Yeah. UNITA especially was
by Russia.
MPLA by Russia.
And UNITA by United States.
Yeah, UNITA by United States. That's true. UNITA got the house support from South Africa, and through South Africa it was going to the US. Actually, you see, the fact is this: these resources were able to help withstand the war. Sugar fruits. Up to you, the exact challenge, the exact division. Even with democracy, MPLA is in government, but you see, the others still have serve as opposition in the country, right? That challenge is still there. Now, these are actually drivers of fragility because we don't just do that, okay, this part control this side, this part control this side. Not on the ordinary part of this. The small businesses and communities. The small communities, how are they impacted by these wars? They are becoming fragile because the war is a war got them by the seriously hits. And at the end of the day, we see it is the businesses, its households, and societies and communities. These wars is millions of households and thousands of businesses and communities. So a lot of businesses died in that war. The businesses died. A lot of communities were displaced. Yeah. Now, a current conflict in Southern Africa. There are a lot of things I want to discuss on this, but I'll just touch briefly on the insurgency. Conflicts in Southern Africa today are typically insurgency or protest related. What is insurgency? Insurgency refers to chapter political and military activity and directed towards completely or partially controlling the states through the use of irregular military forces and illegal political institutions. This was the 2001 definition. If you look at the West African today, students are taking the nature of religious rather than just political activity. This was today refers more to religious streams. In Mozambique, we all know of what's happening with Salafi, Jihadi, and Islamic insurgency in Ghana. Cabo Delgado is an important movement. It's an important movement. It is important for us to understand the socio-economic dynamics of some of these things. These terrorists are smart. They don't just go to anywhere. They know those cardinal areas where state crimes are going on. And whether you like it or not, I was doing research before I came from the field. I was doing research on the ancient trans-Saharan trade routes. I will just relate this to Cabo Delgado so you understand. The ancient trans-Saharan trade route is a point where in the 11th and 12th century, the Arabians brought Islam to Africa through the ancient trade routes. And they didn't just bring Islam to Africa. They also, we all know all this. They also came with slave trade. They took a lot of Africans as slaves to Arabian territory in the name of religion. And then taking them as that was the first enslavement after India. Now, that route didn't die. The route still existed, up to the route still there. Now, after the Arabian enslavement, there was also the reform of that route to a normal trading route among people. Even during the colonial conquest in the 18th and 19th century, West Africa was accessed by Europeans using that route. It's a route for the desert route. It's very sometimes you see the movies. They use it in very dry area. It's a very terrible area. Now, this area in recent times, since 2008, has been turned into a crime hotspot. Yes, these terrorists now use that point to move arms, especially with the fall of Muammar Gaddafi. You know, when the Arab Spring was going on, everybody thought it was just a political movement. Now, when Gaddafi fell, there was multiple arms everywhere. They didn't know where to use the arms anymore. They have succeeded in getting what they wanted, but the arms were already there. Nobody knew where to use the arms. And then the arms started moving from hands to hands. And moving from the ancient trans-Saharan trade routes, they moved from Libya through to Mali, then from Mali, Burkina Faso, all that region. Then it moved down as it kept changing hands, it kept moving until it came to Chad, Niger, Nigeria. Now, when it came to these areas, they started forming cells. They were coming as preachers. When I was in that region in 2008, I was warning the people there. I was leader of the Catholic Corpus, because we were called as Southern Division. I was leader of the Catholic Corpus, and I was warning people that I said there is a war coming. They didn't understand it. I didn't know what I was saying, but I was speaking from reality. I saw it happening. Our Christian sisters would wear trousers, and these guys come and be flogging them. I had to mediate at some point to lead them that, please. These are people coming from the south part of the country. This is the country they are used to. They are used to wearing trousers. They say, no, this is not accepted in Islam. They are not Muslims. Crying out loud. You should understand this factor. Sometimes you have hot squares in the nights. They threaten to kill me. I think one of them, you don't know my history. If you know my history, you will not be talking about it. Because I have survived the streets and what of them. I have survived they pronounce, when I was in the university, I was a state leader. Now they pronounce fatwa. They pronounce fatwa on me one night. Yes. Whenever you see that man, they say, God saved my life. I would have been dead long ago. 2004.
Like Salman Rushdie.
Sorry?
Salman Rushdie, that's the writer.
They pronounce fatwa on me. Yeah. And as God may have it, I was in the library reading for my test the next day. And a friend came to tell me that there is a riot going on in the university. It's about you. They are looking for you to kill. The student union president, who is my friend, has asked me to go and tell you to leave the campus now. So I was relating to that guy. I didn't tell him the story, but I just told him, if you know who I am, you will not be saying this. So if you threaten to kill me there, it doesn't make any difference. And no someone will kill me, you to the boss, you need to the man. But the truth is, we don't treat him this way. I was advocating for our sisters who are usually being flogged by these extremists. They were practicing what they call Salafi jihad. That's what they call it. But then it was Salafia ideology. On this, they're going to put Puritans. They would tell you that a woman should be covered all around. It only happens here if she really only happens here. So we were actually, I was actually advocating for a balanced society where everybody can be Muslim. So basically, that was how we started in 2007, 2008. And when I left the place in 2008, my successor, the guy I handed over to, called me one day and was telling me that they just have an Islamic attack. I was like, what? He said the Quran was taken by the side. And I went to one of these, I had that's a long story. Let's not go into that. But basically, why I'm talking about this is that so you'll be able to understand that these terrorists are not just pushing for Islamic agenda, there is also the economic aspect of it. Yes, they made that ancient trade routes, which I was telling you I was researching before, into a crime hotspot. That used to be a trade route, purely trade. Communities exchange, buy this and sell this. In fact, in the 17th century, they were selling salt from the whole of that region to West Africa, from most countries in West Africa. But over time, now today, it is now a hotbed for crime. The same applies to Cabo Delgado. Cabo Delgado used to be an entrepot kind of thing for people moving from other parts of Southern Africa into South Africa itself. In fact, it used to be a point of exchange of opiums. The people carry drugs from Afghanistan, and the exchange that Cabo Delgado is moves into South Africa and other places. It used to be a science kind of sport. Now, over time, these activities were going on, and because they were unchecked, they were all going on. There were also human trafficking going on in that period, who were trafficked from different parts of South Africa, from even as far as Tanzania, from other parts of Africa into South Africa, where they were brought in to go and work as laborers and they would pay their masters and all that. Those were checked hands going on. And then there was also ivory, which was traded along that side. There were drugs that were traded in Cabo Delgado. Now, these terrorists took hold of Cabo Delgado when they came from, because they came from, most of them came from Somalia, from Kenya, where they penetrated into. And they moved a lot of them, young boys, they moved a lot of them into Cabo Delgado to join a growing Islamic movement in Cabo Delgado. You need to understand the demography of Cabo Delgado. Over time, Cabo Delgado used to be a population of 54% Muslims and then the rest, 35% Catholics, and then the rest Christians. Now, the rich ones in Cabo Delgado sent their children in the 1990s to Saudi Arabia to go study. And when they went to study to Saudi Arabia, they came back and they brought Islamic militarism with them. They were like fighting the government. They said, no, this don't have Islamic practice. Then these extremists were seeing them as outcasts, and there was clashes between them. They had to be defeated by authorities. Now, when all this were happening, these extremists were gaining more ground. And by the time they brought these guys from Kenya, from Somalia, and from other parts, they infiltrated in society and they gained dominance. They formed cells and they started operating. It didn't start in the day they had areas attack. No, it started long before then. They had moved in, they had taken advantage of the businesses going on, they had taken over the businesses. And remember, they were also going to meet these multinational companies that were extracting gas and oil in the region. They threatened them. Their interest was actually to capture Cabo Delgado, to capture the wealth of Cabo Delgado. That was the interest. And we know that, but the challenge we have to have in this fragile system is the inability of African leaders to come to a standpoint on them. Most African leaders, many African leaders are Muslims, and they have soft touch for these guys. The truth is that until and unless they take a hard stand to flush them and killing them, because the terrorist is terrorist. If you need them, you still come back to them. You make the most important to flush them until and unless they do that, we will keep having this security fragility in this part of Africa. And Russian war and inflation in South Africa. There is a huge discussion of this, but let me just touch on it. The Russian war, the Russian-Ukraine war, has actually inflicted inflation on societies in the making economies, including Southern African countries, or communities, because Russia supplies 12% of the world's wheat, and then Ukraine supplies 17% of wheat and barley throughout the world. Now, this huge percentage of supply makes them very important to the global economy and makes them very important to feeding the communities and households. Now, when this war began, remember Russia had a blockade of the sea, stopping Ukrainians from exporting, so that they were able to sell. Now, this blockade itself wasn't just about Ukraine, it was about other countries. It was about those who were in food. It led to inflation in different parts of the world. It led to inflation in different parts of the society. Remember when the Arab Spring began, one of the reasons why Arab Spring was successful in Sudan, Egypt, and Eritrea was because of bread. Just bread. They started protesting in Sudan against the regime because there was rising cost of bread. In Egypt, they started protesting against President Sheikh. This is not Russian. In Egypt, the former president of Sheikh, former president of Egypt. I've forgotten where I never see. Now, people started protesting because there was a rising cost of bread, because bread is an essential food in this economies. Bread is an essential food in this economy. But in some of these poorer economies, here you have alternatives. If you don't want to eat bread, you have lots of alternatives. But in some of these poorer economies, it's an essential food. So when bread cost rises, it leads to war. It's happening in Syria. It's happening in Yemen. Yeah, it's happening in Yemen. Rising cost of bread led to people and others. So with this cost, with this war in Russia, Remember, sometime in 2020, October or September or so, most African leaders came together to go and beg Putin to allow him to release, to let the belly of it leave the ports in Ukraine. Why? Because it was hitting economics bad. It was hitting societies bad. It was hitting households very bad. Because these are households who depend on bread, who depend on other kinds of food, which they eat with bread. And because it is hitting the society bad, even the political leaders should be in their legislative position if they don't act. That's why they have to go with Russia to do this to allow Ukraine to export. So that their people will to get bread. It's led to increase in costs. In my own society where I grew up, a loaf of bread costs before the Russian war was costing 250. But today, I heard it's around 700, 800. Yes, it has more than doubled. Imagine a household where you buy this bread for your kids every morning, and now they cannot afford to buy it. These are the drivers of activity. These are the reasons why household communities in the Philippines, especially now some of them are countries. Community impacts of COVID climate change. So it's actually the Russian war is in general inflation around the world, and this fragile economics in Africa, so it's not affected by it. We will get to know more when we discuss about Malawi and some other countries overseas that climate change is not increasing costs. Community impact of climate change in Southern Africa, Eswatini, a non-law country, has been experiencing severe drought since 1992 and 1922. Severe droughts that brought the country into near famine. That brought the country into near death. In 2004, the Prime Minister declared a humanitarian crisis. Eswatini is surrounded by South Africa in the north, west, and east. Mozambique in the east. It has an area of 17,260 kilometers, square kilometers. It's 993 kilometers from the north to the south. It's a small country, a very small country. 193 kilometers. Imagine that it's not up to here to Pluto. From north to south. And then 145 kilometers from east to west. Eswatini has a population of 1.16 million people as of 2020, with an annual growth of 1.0. 90% of imports from and 80% of its electricity comes from South Africa. You know, I told you it's surrounded by South Africa. If you look at the map, you see it. It's surrounded by South Africa. Oh, sorry. You see, it's Eswatini. It's here. That's the travel to the south. And the west is South Africa. The thinking is the city. The city is surrounded all around. All around. So you see, a country like Eswatini has the challenge of getting imports because it needs to depend on either South Africa or Mozambique. Unlike the city who depends on South Africa. In the case of let's go. We're going to come to here. Okay. Eswatini is a low middle income country. You will wonder why is it not a low income country? Yes, because with small population, it's able to manage its economy well. Yes. That's one unique thing about some of these small countries, which you will notice here. Eswatini is certain which you know at least are not low income countries. They are small countries, but because they are able to manage their economy well, they are middle income countries. At the moment, the richest country in Africa, the whole of its 4 countries in Africa are middle income countries. There is no high income country in Africa. However, the richest ones are middle income. The rest are low income countries. But it's this one's imagination. Why is this a middle income country? Maybe in Africa it's an elite country. Maybe it's an elite country because it's able to manage its resources well. We discussed here, we said, where is it? Okay, yeah, up there, 52.4% of its income is dependent on services, while 37.5% is dependent on industry. Its GDP as at 2020 was 3.9 billion. Just 1.1 million people, 1.19 million people, right? Has a GDP of how much? 3.9 billion, with annual growth rates of 2.2 in 2019, and deficit because of the coronavirus in 2020, minus 4.6. Most economies in the world went into deficit because of the virus. It's peaked as in 2013 at 6.4. This is about the maximum most economies go through. Even oil-rich economies in Africa, 6.4 is generally the maximum they go through. Rarely limited up to 7. Rarely. It has 4 ecological systems: the montana grasslands, the savanna woodland, mosaic, and forest and aquatic systems. Dry lands are particularly vulnerable to effects of climate change. The dry lands cover 944,000 hectares, which is about 4% of the country, and occupies all the lower and middle belt. That should be full stop. Okay, not middle belt, yeah. Not middle belt, eastern and western belt, as well as parts of the Lisbon range and upper middle belt. You know what to belt before, right? Yeah. It has summer rains from October to March. It's unique. Its summer and rain comes from October to March. Here, that's winter period, right? That's winter period. But then it's actually summer period. Even at Mozambique and yeah, as well. Yeah, because of the effects of the 3 oceans around them. Available projections suggest increased aridity and higher occurrence in the number and frequency of dry spells over the summer season, October to February. The country is on a high risk of natural disaster, especially floods and droughts that affect its agricultural outputs, especially for its smallholder farms, as over 70% of its population rely on the rain-fed farming system. That is the problem in Africa. A big problem we have. Where we depend on only rain-fed agriculture. We hardly do it. Yes, we hardly do it. You might, to you, you might admire that it's a blessing because we eat organic. Yeah, the organic, we eat organic, but we have short time to put it to plants, which is not good. That is the problem of sustainability. That is what we should be working on. We should have effective irrigation system in most communities. So that households, because the problem is this: when they harvest, imagine this country as well, they harvest in March, right? They plant October, harvest March. The whole of the year, April, through till September, you will have to depend on what already have harvested. If you get things along the line, they are stuck. So it's actually a problem, it's not sustainable. So there's need for irrigated agriculture in Africa. For us to sustain this society, for us to sustain our population, for us to sustain our lives. Yes, that's why you see, that's why you have lots of hunger situations in most countries like that, because we depend on rain-fed agricultural system. Climate change is expected to affect 40% of Eswatini's river flows. Wow. The primary source of water is surface water, rivers and reservoirs, groundwater, and atmospheric moisture. So these are the primary sources of water in Eswatini. It's a beautiful small country. It's able to manage its resources, but in the nearest future, 40% of its water will be lost when drought sets in. Like we know, most Southern African countries experienced terrible droughts last year. Like over 70 countries, we experienced terrible droughts last year. Angola experienced its worst drought in 40 years. Yes, just like Portugal experienced terrible droughts last year. But then
in Angola, people die of hunger. Here,
that's true. People die of hunger, yeah. Here, people also suffer from hunger. Yeah, people suffer a lot. You know,
I'm sure, but they die.
Yeah, that's true. Even in Angola, there are supposed I didn't want to bring it because I felt it might be too much work. In Angola, people have to migrate from Angola to Namibia with their crops, with their animals, sorry. And along with that, on this particular NGO, we study on two systems. In the course of migrating from the home in Angola to Namibia, their animals died. And they are stranded in Namibia. They pick woods, sell to eat food. You see, that's actually displacement of populations. It happens with me. It happens with migration. They are displaced with the roots and they are displaced in the Lesotho, another landlocked country. Basically, we have how many landlocked countries in South Africa? Lesotho, another landlocked country, is surrounded by South Africa on all sides. Well, we looked at it recently. It's surrounded by South Africa on all sides. The countries are 30,355 square kilometers land area, has a topographic characterized by rugged terrain, its elevations ranging from 1,380 meters to 3,482 meters. Only 10% of the country is considered green, very dangerous. Only 10% of the country can live in farm. Only 10% of the land in the country can live in farm. The rest are not good for agriculture. That's not sustainable. Lesotho is a lower middle income country. We are certainly a lower middle income country. With a constitutional monarchy ruled by a king as head of state, just like Eswatini as well, and governed by constitutional Senate and national assembly. The country's population 2.1 million is more populated than Eswatini. Eswatini is 1.6 million, it's 2.1 million. For 2020 and has an annual growth rate of 0.8%. And is projected to reach 2.3 million by 2030 and 2.6 million people by 2050. That's very slow growth, very low growth. Lesotho has a temperate climate with alpine features. It has the features of what you see in Switzerland and France. The alpine features. It experiences hot summers and very cold winters. The topography is mountainous with sharp terrains ranging in elevation from 1,460 meters above sea level in the west to 3,400 meters above sea level in the west. The rainfall pattern is very erratic and unpredictable. The rain season starts in early spring, mostly with heavy, short duration downpours and hailstorms, all of which can cause soil movements. This lasts until late autumn. All of this have for agriculture. We said the rainy season starts in early spring, mostly the heavy, short duration downpours and hailstorms, all of which can cause soil movements. Soil movements. The heavy rain, heavy downpours usually cause soil movements. Is it good for agriculture? Because it takes up topsoil, right? Anything you plant is taking it. It's not actually good for agriculture, meaning that the population needs to revise and alternatives for sustainability. This lasts until late autumn, November to March. High aridity, that's high dryness. High aridity and periods of intense droughts exacerbates and loss of biological diversity. Deterioration of rangelands and reduced crop and animal productivity via desertification, making the country increasingly vulnerable. The productivity of major crops and animals has declined significantly in recent years due to fall and range land conditions. You see, because of the fact that it has a proximity to deserts, the Kalahari Desert area, it is actually affected by desertification. Meaning that dryness, most of the land is very wild, more difficult to cultivate. The high degree of risk to natural hazards, including floods, droughts, frosts, strong winds, and heavy snowfall, has been affecting households and communities in the country, especially those in the food industry and tourism sector. It will certainly affect them because see where there is weather extreme, the agriculture is not sustainable in that area. what you plant is lost. It's weather extremes, and then the tourism sector also. Nobody wants to go to a place and there is so much rain and you cannot even see anything. Nobody wants to go to a place and there is so much heat, droughts, and you cannot even get water to drink. You understand? Those are affecting these two businesses, agro industry and tourism. These are the defining businesses of the majority of the nation. Small island development states. We cannot discuss fully.
Sorry to interrupt. We have advanced in some.
Oh, are you serious? I'm almost done. Sorry. Let's start out from this. Six, these small island development states. We cannot fully discuss Southern African nations because some Southern African countries belong to this category of small island development states. What are small island development states? They are states that are bounded by seas or oceans, states that are islands, and they are still developing. Now they are exposed. Let me rush it because of class. They are exposed to so many risks. There are four of them in Southern Africa. We have Madagascar, we have Mauritius, we have Seychelles, and we have Comoros. These four countries are exposed to the possibility of. Remember, I talked about due to climate change, rising sea level 1.5 as the IPCC reports states. Where if there is a high sea level, those are coastal communities lose their homes, they lose their businesses, they lose their homelands, they lose their ancestral connection. Now, this is exactly what happens to most SIDS countries. If there is, with climate change, especially when there is increased sea level, there is reduction. There is when there is drought, and when there is usually when there is a change of weather with more rains, falling, high increase in sea level. Let me rush into this classes because of this lesson. Then we look at Madagascar is also another island country. Madagascar is more prone to climate change. It has 90% endemic biodiversity. It's actually experienced lots of cyclones, epidemics, floods, and so on. It actually has a 2.4 million children humanitarian crisis, or around 2.4 million of children humanitarian assistance. 479,000 of his children aged between 5 and 59 years are experiencing acute malnutrition through the main season in southern Madagascar, in the south, where they are more exposed to climate change realities. The children are more likely to go through malnutrition. All through 2022, some of you saw it on the media. In 2022, Madagascar suffered a lot of droughts. It's not had a lot of issues with cyclones as well during the rains. Because of the droughts, especially lots of food died, lots of animals died, lots of things. The slow recovery from 3 consecutive failed rainy seasons in the south has left more than 4.6 million people in need of humanitarian assistance. During the upcoming rainy season, January to April 2023, an estimated 469,000 children including 2,000 experiencing wasting. They're losing their weight, they're losing their lives. 1.9 million are already affected to very difficult situations. Let me run with the COVID effects. So we have 502,000 children who are exposed to violence, abuse, and exploitation. In this period, that you see something that is not common here, something that is not common here, it's common there. You see families, because of the hardship they face, they give up their young people to marriage. They want to survive. Malawi is another one. Malawi has a long history of production disaster over the past, with over 40 disasters between 1970 and 2006. We've had over 40 climate-related disasters. We have this Southern Oscillation that brings about rain, and then we have the that brings about droughts. Sorry, El Nino brings about droughts, while La Nina brings about unusual rain. So that's unusual rain. In March 2019, heavy rains and severe floods in Malawi were caused by a cyclone there. Usually, high rainfall extremely affected areas, launched households, and businesses and communities into instant poverty and food insecurity. You see, this is a country that has experienced lots and lots of climate disaster. I mentioned before, the island countries, Malawi, especially Madagascar, have been very, very affected. Then we have Comoros. Comoros is one of the poorest countries on earth. It's also an island country. It's situated between Madagascar and Mozambique. It has three main islands, Wali, Zali, and you can see 50% of its population is within 21 years, very young population. 30% of its population live abroad, mainly in France. 25% of its population is extremely poor and able to buy food to eat minimum nutrition diet. 2,200 calories according to the so you see this case of food insecurity is really high there. Seychelles is another one. That's the fourth country in the islands. So Seychelles is like English. It's not Seychelles, of course, it's not Seychelles is actually has been able to manage this economy to manage the plastic side. It's one of the richest countries in Africa. Sometimes it has $6,500 per capita. It's actually very low for a small population, able to manage itself and able to have a good life. It's also have a good healthcare, a good education system for its population. This is because of time, we will not be able to do that. Botswana, Zambia, Tanzania, and Namibia and Democratic Republic. But these are actually groups of Southern Africa. In case you want to go into any of these countries in research, to important areas for consideration. It's also the reality support skills, the climate change effects, and how it affects households and communities, and important areas of research as well. Households, businesses, and communities are most affected by shocks and are handling metrics and productivities. These days, we talk about always GNP, GDP, and all that. Nobody concerns communities. So that's actually the sense of the statistics and our ability to present this. This is where the translation to focus on the micro society as the baseline for shocks, impacts, and disabilities. Thank you. Questions? Any question? Let's have there are questions. You're rushing to the next class, right? I will allow you. Thank you very much, Philip. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming.